Hello, American Go Association. I'm Chris Garlock, managing editor of the AGA e-journal, joined once again by Michael Redmond, 9-Dan professional. Today, Michael will be reviewing an AlphaGo Zero versus AlphaGo Lee game. As always, before we get started, I want to thank all our AGA members, and if you'd like to support this content as well, please consider joining the American Go Association at usgo.org. So, Michael, I am very excited. We have AlphaGo Zero and AlphaGo Lee. So, what's before we get into what to look for in the game? Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, the AlphaGo Zero is called the 20 block version of AlphaGo Zero, and I didn't really follow that part of the paper, so I can't really tell you what the difference is. But it's very different in the way it plays. And so it plays differently than the AlphaGo Zero we see in playing against Master.
Mm-hmm.
But the moves this Zero plays, some of them have become popular too. And so it's not as if it's so bad that humans are not taking notice of the moves it plays. So it's very interesting, and it's very different opening that it plays. So that'll be points of interest to me.
Excellent. Excellent. All right. What are the things that we're going to be seeing in this game?
Let's see. It's going to be AlphaGo Zero is going to have white, and AlphaGo Lee is playing black. So we're going to see. It's going to be a while since we saw AlphaGo Lee playing, and I'm going to be seeing it playing very human-like moves again. Like I think AlphaGo Lee was still AlphaGo at a stage where it was mimicking humans to a certain degree. Mm-hmm. So it was playing very human-like moves. And we're going to see Zero sort of taking advantage of that, building a big moyo on the left side, and actually turning it into territory, it doesn't usually happen in the AlphaGo games. Usually a lot of stuff happens before it gets into territory.
Yes, stuff happens. I like that.
Yeah. So let's just do it one move at a time this time. AlphaGo Lee has black. And we have what looks like a very normal opening for the first four moves. Actually, when Zero has black, it's going to be playing an unusual opening, so that'll be a different thing. But this is where the game starts to get strange, because this is where most human players would just play at A. Sure. And black would have a choice of playing at B for the Kobayashi opening, or D for the Chinese opening. And also sometimes I would play C in this position as a variation of the Kobayashi opening. So this is what would be called normal. Well, otherwise, white could be playing a pincer on the lower side or switching to the lower left corner. It's not as if white is limited to just this one move, but this is the most popular move. Zero immediately kicks. So this is already different than you would expect. And then jumps. So in playing this way, white has sort of heated up the lower side. White has made the lower side an important area. And so there is the virtue that white is sort of forcing black's hand, forcing black to play towards the lower side. So maybe Zero thinks that that is good for white, that to have black play something like the Kobayashi opening. And also there's the idea that kicking once at A is maybe not such a bad move, although traditionally, or we've always called this a bad exchange for white.
Right.
But actually, the way humans think about this move has gradually changed also, and you will be seeing some pros kicking once in various board positions, but not usually so early in the game. And so naturally, black plays on the lower side.
And just to be clear, it's changed because of AlphaGo.
I think actually in this case it was sort of changing in parallel to AlphaGo, like this kicking here with a star point, kicking against the approach move. I think it was starting to be played even before AlphaGo Lee version came on the scene. But this is. And AlphaGo Lee version was not playing this very much, as far as I remember. We only have a few games from that version anyway, until this set of games came around. But yeah, it was after Master that human play actually got to be changed drastically by the way AlphaGo plays.
Right.
So this was something that humans were doing also. So this is the opening that we start with when AlphaGo Lee has black, because AlphaGo Lee, when it was playing Lee Sedol, it did like to play the Chinese style opening, or at least the first two moves of it on the left side of the board here are the Chinese style. And so AlphaGo Lee sort of likes to play this way up to this point in the game. And so it makes sense that it's playing this far the same game. But this is where Zero branches off. So in the game, Zero played this Kakari. And otherwise, it could play this, let's see, no, it didn't. It could play at A or B otherwise. So we're going to see these in future games. White playing at A sometimes before playing the Kakari in the lower left corner, or White playing a high Kakari at B. These are the other moves that Zero could have did actually choose. So this is a game of a set of 20 games that we have here, and in 10 of them Zero has black, and in 10 of them Zero has white. So in the 10 games that Zero has white, we're going to see these three moves at this point in the game. And of course, this is where a human would most likely play. So there's this fourth move that Zero did not play even once, which is a pretty popular move for humans. So I'll just show you what a kind of a very conservative variation here. This is what was played a lot. And if we ignore that marked exchange, then it's a very common opening.
Sure.
For the Kobayashi opening. You would find it, it's a kind of a textbook opening. But Zero was just not playing this move. It likes the low Kakari. And this low Kakari, when there's a black stone, let's mark that black stone on the lower side. There was a period of human play in which it was considered better to play this Kakari, and this was too close. And like there were very few players who liked this nice Kakari when there's a black stone at the mark point. But actually, AlphaGo in general likes this low Kakari, and it plays it even when there's a black stone on the side there. And so that's actually having an effect on the way humans play the game. So this has become more popular in human play also. And so black plays a pincer. And again, I've added some marks to the game to show some other pincers that black will play at A or C. And I think it played at B2 in some of the games. So we're going to see that variation there. Actually, this pincer is one of the less popular moves that it played. It doesn't play that move so much, but it looks like a very natural move to a human player. And white jumps out. So this sort of makes sense. White is playing on the fifth line, and since the lower side is probably going to be a black territory, it sort of makes sense for white to be playing on the fifth line to make it a low territory, to make the lower side a low territory on the third line for black. And so kicking here again, this is a move that AlphaGo likes to play. And this Joseki where white jumps here is sort of revived a little bit. There was a period where it wasn't played very much, but AIs will play this move sometimes. And kicking at A is a move that black likes to play also. AlphaGo likes to play with black. So this is a very AlphaGo-like opening now. And the virtue of black kicking at A is that it's taking away white's eye space. So there's a potential attack on white that is setting up now. And so again, this is another move. Black's kick at A is another move that is becoming popular in human play. And we're seeing a lot of it. I'm seeing a lot of it in young professionals playing. And so this move here is a move that is making Miai of A and B. And the attachment at A is a move that white is in this shape here already, which is occurring a lot. Even if we ignore those black stones to the right. Let's just, for the time being, say we're talking about a position that does not necessarily have these black stones on the right.
Okay.
Even in that case, white will be aiming at this attachment here, But with those black stones, it's a bit dangerous for white to be trying that immediately. So that's what this move is doing. White is setting up some strength there to allow white to attach at A next. And also, of course, white is looking at the pincer at B. So it's making mi of those 2 points. So just to go into a variation here, it's probably a bit dangerous for white to immediately pincer here. This is the strongest move. Black will cut white off. White will probably cap here. But this fight is starting to look a bit dangerous for white when white's going to have some trouble on the left. There's going to be a little fight there, and white's group in the center is not very strong either. And so black's going to have potential to attack in this position. So that would explain white playing here, which is making mi of 2 good points, and so it's sort of settling the white group. For instance, if black plays here to surround the lower side, white's going to pincer now. And now black has to escape first, so black runs out, and white can connect up on the side. So this would be good enough for white. White would be getting the territory. Otherwise, if black answers on this side. So this is the move that I would probably choose with black, except I might copy AlphaGo. AlphaGo played away on the upper right corner. I might choose to copy AlphaGo in this case, but this is the move that would spring to mind first. This is the move that I would intuitively play in this position. And white would then be able to play this attachment. And so white would get this exchange in. White would probably quit at that point and play some large point such as C. Something on the right side would be a big move too. And of course with AlphaGo, sometimes you would see white jumping into the upper left corner, 3-3 point. So this exchange with the white attachment at B has strengthened white's group there. And extending on to the right of that is, it's a big move, but it's maybe still a bit too early for white to play that. So this would be okay for white, but it's probably about even. And so I would consider playing this way with black. But what this move is doing, I actually think it's a ladder breaking move. Because white's going to attach here. And with that stone in the upper right corner, black can bump against white and cut. And whenever white attaches here, this is the main variation that you have to think about. So for instance, in this case, in this case, that would be unreasonable for black because white would be able to capture in a ladder. But in this case, black can actually cut here, and that stone in the upper right corner is breaking the ladder. That said, I would still, in the game, white does this. It's really interesting. White does the attachment, and then white plays here. So white sort of, instead of playing here, white plays here. So it looks like white is worried about this variation. I would actually be choosing this variation myself.
Really?
So I'll show you what happens. Black can cut, the ladder favors black. And white will start to squeeze here. And I sort of expect this kind of thing to happen. This is just one of the possible variations, but white has sacrificed the marked stones. It's a big black territory, but you know, white's getting a lot of stones on the outside. So I would say that this is playable for white. So this is how I would play.
It's nice and thick, and black didn't get that much more, right?
Well, it's a sizable territory. It's more than 25 points, but still, white is getting a lot of stones on the outside. So I would have played this way for white. But what this move is doing, white's trying to make an exchange in the corner to make it even better. So if black does answer it and cuts, white can play a forcing move here, in which case if black answers this way, it's going to be a real disaster for black because this just ends in a
oh, nice. Yeah, I saw that.
So black will, when white Hana is here, black has to be really careful, maybe do something like this. And this will just give white some extra profit here. White probably jumps here. And this is a completely different fight, actually. It's another fight that is actually pretty difficult, but white will be able to live on the side here. Something like this.
Holy moly.
Maybe something like this. And there's still a lot of complications. Like there's that shape on the left is a kind of a Tsimigo problem.
Yeah, it is.
If you like Tsimigo, you could probably find a way. If it was isolated, you could find a way to make a co-op out of that for black.
Okay.
But in actual practice, the black group in the corner is in danger too.
Yeah.
So probably not going to work for black. So I'm going to say this is playable for white. This is okay for white. So to get back to the game, so it makes sense that black does not connect here. So black pushes through, and so the order of moves here with white playing A first and then B is it's really interesting, and there's some reason for each move. But I think actually black has gained from this trade. I like the way that black has got a very nice position in the lower side, where white has actually used 2 moves to get this profit in the corner.
Mm.
And so black extends here. It looks, intuitively, it looks like a nice move. But I think actually black should have played the Kakari in the upper right, that is. So I'm going to show this variation. I would prefer to play with black with this board position, but I think that depends on my playing this double Kakari. White's probably going to play this way. This is the most popular joseki nowadays. And then something like this. And in this variation, black can be aiming to invade at B immediately, directly, without that stone on the side. And also that white group in the upper right corner is not 100% alive yet. So there's still some potential pressure that black can put on this group. So I sort of like this joseki for black. And the double Kakari here, this move is really, in any case, this is going to be a really big move. So I would have played there. Black plays here in the game. And there we go, you know.
There it is.
I still don't like this move, even when the 20 block 0 plays it.
You're just not buying it, are you?
Well, I would have probably played at B, but I'm going to say that I put A and B as 2 moves that white could choose at this point.
Sure.
Which I would call normal moves. And yeah, I wouldn't think of jumping in the 3-3 point in this position. But you know, when AlphaGo does it, it seems to work. White crawls. And this is where I think that AlphaGo Lee version is showing that it still plays human joseki, because this move, this hane, which is a very, and it's an old joseki, it's been around a long time. I think it starts to disappear. It becomes a bit rare in the master version, but it looks like the Lee version still plays it. Because the master version plays this
one to the right, yeah.
Yeah, it more often plays this one, and it depends a lot on the surrounding position, of course. But in this case, I think it's a lot better for black to play the knight's move. And if we assume this variation, then black gets to extend on the side. So the knight move at A allows black to play away at this point with relatively small damage to the corner when white plays the next move. And B is a really important point in this game. So this is how I would play with black. The way black plays, and again, this is a variation that was starting to show up. It showed up in the Master Series. There's a game in the Master Series where it did really well for Master. When white gets to play this invasion, after invading at A, white's got both of the big points on the left side. And actually, white's invasion at A has the value that it's taking away black's eye space. So when white gets to play first on the side like this, then black actually has to worry about the eyes for this this black group in the upper left, which means that it's not really functioning as a wall.
Yeah, it feels like black kind of lost tempo there, didn't it?
Yeah. So I'm blaming that on black's move at B.
Right.
And that's why I say black should have chosen this variation.
Right. Yeah, that looks much better.
And again, going back to this, this move here was sort of viewed as a new move that AlphaGo was playing. But I should repeat what I've said before, that when there's no stone on the side, like if there was a black stone somewhere around here, it would make more sense maybe for white to be playing this Hanesugi. Even more if there was a black stone somewhere around here, then there would be some meaning for white to be playing this, and black would probably answer it here. And with a stone at the mark point, I'll mark that point once more. With a stone around here, this would be a slightly over-concentrated position.
Absolutely, yeah.
So that would be okay for white to play that exchange. But when there's no black stone on the side, it makes more sense for white to leave the side open so that white can play here and have more space. So curling on the second line for an extra time in this case, when there's no black stone on the side, it makes perfect sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just a context that was not seen in human games before, where white was, in human games before AlphaGo, white was not jumping into the 3-3 point so early. And so that's why we didn't see this move in human games before AlphaGo.
And I assume in this sequence, black really can't break away and play that move.
Not in this Joseki. Like when black plays B, this final move
it's driven, right?
It's driven.
Yeah.
So in order to do that, black has to play the knight's move, which makes it much less damage when white continues. Like white will continue maybe with something like this, but the impact on black's position on the outside is relatively small.
Yeah.
So I think this is starting to look bad for AlphaGo Lee.
I was going to say it looks pretty good for white now, don't you think?
It looks pretty good. It's still undecided. Black jumps into the corner. This is a point where I find that it's still really important to play on the left side. I would want to play here. And it's not going to be bad for white. White's going to still be sort of threatening that black wall in the upper left. But it's going to be a big fight here. So I would be inclined to play this fighting style, moving out the left side. Black's group A is not going to be killed. It's going to be a tough fight. But black also has some potential to attack white on the left side too. So it's going to be a lot of infighting there.
Well, plus you want to bring that wall in the upper right into play, right?
Yeah. What I'm worried about is that it could be attacked also. So that's not really clear at this point. But still, I think that in the game we're going to see the whole left side become a huge white territory, which is just too much. So I think at some point black has to move out at A, and moving out immediately is what I would want to do.
Right.
But black, this is also an important point. So we'll see what happens here. It turns out that AlphaGo 0 has, we'll call it the AlphaGo 0 defense, or the 0 defense, because
you like that, don't you? The 0 defense.
Yeah, sort of like a chess opening or something.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is going to happen over and over in this series of games between the 20 block 0 and AlphaGo Lee. Because this position in the lower right corner is going to happen over and over again. When black jumps in here, white plays one hane. And you know, in human games, we see white playing the hane a bit earlier, before black invades, just to make the invasion work less. But playing it with this timing, it doesn't always work, but it turns out that in this position it's working. So in the game, black answers it, and we'll just look at the game variation first. White can play here, another nice move, and white will win the semi in the corner. So white captures the cornerstones, giving up some profit on the lower side to black, usually allowing black to make a ponnuki there, capturing the marked stone. I've marked it even though it's not on the board. Usually that's really bad for white, but in this case, the lower side is probably black's territory anyway, so it doesn't matter. So the point is white has saved that territory without too much damage. And there is the question of what if black plays to live? Black can live on the side. White will connect. Black can easily live, connecting up to the side stone. But in this case, white gets to trash black's territory on the lower side too. So there's a good profit there for white too. And this is okay for white. It's okay. I would say I would have trouble choosing between this and the game variation, which is this one. If I was black, I would have trouble choosing between the two. But apparently AlphaGo doesn't have that trouble because it never played this one. AlphaGo never played this variation. Every time it'd go ahead and play this variation. But this, if we assume this is correct, just because white has played away so many times in the lower right. White played away something like twice. It's relatively minor damage to be giving black a Ponnuki on the lower side. So I think this is a good result for white. And so finally, black plays the double Kakari.
There it is.
And that's a really important move also. But again, to go back to this move that I wanted black to play on the left here, this one, what's going to happen from here on is that black's going to end up losing the tempo in the upper right. And white's going to get to play at the mark point, or well, not at the mark point. So white's going to play at a move to the left side. This is another point where I would say it's a possibility for black to be moving out at the mark point instead of this move. But instead, this happens. Again, it's the popular Joseki. And in this case, AlphaGo plays the extension. And this is a Joseki. Obviously, this is a very common Joseki in human play before AlphaGo. But actually, in recent years, since AlphaGo came on the scene, the attachment here has become much more popular. So this has sort of become the rule, and this has become the exception in recent play. But in this case, I'm going to say that the game move is better, because if black plays here, in this case, we can see that the upper side in general is not such an important area because the side is open underneath. I'm talking about this point. It's open underneath here. So white will be happy to play this Joseki and give black that territory, and then white can invade on the right side.
Right.
So in this case, while usually white does not play this Joseki, in this case it would be a good choice for white, and I think I like this for white. So that's a good reason for the game move. I think it makes sense that black chose this one, which gives black the opportunity to add a move to the right side, which would usually be here. So this is again the Joseki you would find in Joseki books, but it turns out this is not the way that AlphaGo played. And again, I agree with AlphaGo, because in this variation, white has lived in the corner, and white still has an invasion at A. So an invasion at A would be troublesome. What black stone here, let's mark the black stone, is a bit too far away from those stones.
It's too far.
It's an overextension. And so this is not really working well for black. So this is the standard Joseki, but I sort of like this move which AlphaGo played.
That's cool.
It's a cool move. A lot of players might be surprised by this move, but it's actually a move that has been around a while. So it's a move that you can find in human play.
It's a bit of an older move, isn't it?
I'm not sure about that. Yeah, sometimes you ask some difficult questions, Chris, but I don't know that one. It's a move I've played myself. It's a move that is more aggressive in that it's taking away white's eye space.
Right.
Yeah. And so white plays away. So again, this was a chance. So that's what's happening with the double Kakari up there in the upper right corner. Let's just mark the move. This move here I'm talking about. It allowed white to get a tempo to play this move. And while the left side is not 100% white's territory yet, it's one step further in that direction, and it's not going to be so effective when black plays a move now.
And black's formation on the right just looks kind of, you've got that one stone, way down there, kind of floating on the right, and those.
You're talking about this one, right?
Yeah, I don't really understand the relationship between the stones. They don't seem to be working together.
They're a bit spaced out. The idea for black is that black wants to attack this white group in the upper right corner and surround the right side in the process.
Okay.
And that could potentially work, but it's not going to be as important as what's happening on the right side, on the left side, where white is building a big territory there. Like this black, I'm marking a lot of stones, but since I guess people understand, this black stone on the left that I've just marked is just going to be swallowed up, and that's a wasted move in the end. And so that's really efficient for white to be able to kill that stone.
I mean, it looks like, on the left there, that's definitely white territory. And on the right, I see what you're saying in terms of what black's aiming at, but that's kind of iffy at this point.
Yeah, so that takes me all the way back to this move again.
Right.
I think black should have been playing on the left side.
Right. Okay. That makes sense.
And so black plays here. So this is again, we can see black in the process of trying to surround the right side. Pushing on the left here is
but wait. Go back to that one for a sec. So I'm with you. I really like that first one, but
this one, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that one. But adding a third one is that almost.
Yeah, well,
I'll tell you, it almost looks like a move our friend Janice Kim would have come up with. She would like that kind of move, right? If she'd have some name for it.
Okay, could be. Yeah.
It seems odd, though, right? I mean, it's like three, because it just seems, I don't know.
Three stones. It's a pretty good shape as far as the right side is concerned. And you can see black is threatening a cut there.
Yeah.
The other move that I would consider would be this one.
Yeah.
And white would play a hana and connect. And black would get really great shape on the upper side. But white would be able to attack first. So this is a variation that I made. And as it turns out, I don't really like it very much for black. No. So I guess black saw the need to reinforce the right side a bit more as black tries to attack the white group.
Okay.
And actually, I have one more variation where I think I sort of like this for black. So I'm not really giving up on black at this point. So I sort of like this move.
Okay.
And white plays the attachment here. And we can see white is starting to try to make eyes in the corner. In the game, black immediately tries to stop white from doing that. Another move you might consider, since black did sort of threaten to cut with this move, this one would turn out like this, and white would be able to cut here. Something like this is bound to happen. And when white connects here, white is actually alive in the corner. Because of the Atari here that white can use to make another eye. White is alive in the corner. And so this is going to be okay for white because white has a good position on the outside too. So this was a failure for black. Pushing through and cutting immediately was bad for black.
Okay. Yeah, I was looking at that, and it's usually you have to kind of be prepared for that, right?
You have to be ready to. You have to have a plan of how to deal with that. Yes.
So
yeah.
Right away goes for the eyes.
Goes for the eyes, and now white plays the connection, and you can see white actually has a plan to try to make that corner territory, but for the time being, like black has this move that can connect up to the upper side, so that's what black is doing. And so white plays this, and black is chasing the white group. So you can see black is chasing it from the right, so as to make that overextension. I'll mark the stone. This stone that was overextended. If black can get a lot of thickness in the area, then it's going to be okay. So black's trying to justify this big extension that black has made on the right side. And so this is a kind of a turning point here. And I'm sort of thinking of it as the last chance for black to stay in the game. So this is sort of going to be like the Master Series, where we see Master beating up top professional players. Because this game I think this is the point where white takes a secure lead. Where black plays here and white plays here, this is actually a living shape in the corner. And I just can't see that black can allow this. So I'm going to say black should play here.
Okay.
White can cut here, but actually black has no trouble making a life. And in this case, white has to deal with this is just not working if white does this immediately. And so white's probably going to have to find some other more complicated variation, but in any case, it's going to be playable for black. So I'm going to say black has to connect underneath it sorry, that wasn't it. This one. And if white plays the most straightforward variation like this, white's going to end up with two weak groups. So white has to deal with the stones at B. If white plays a lot of stones on the right side, white's going to be able to live there. But white also has to worry about the stones on the upper side.
Well, so but this is consistent with what you point out was black's plan was to do exactly this. It's
consistent with the game plan. So I'm sort of taken by surprise by the black backs off here because it's just not working. And white plays here. And just to add one, I have that variation in somewhere. Let's do that later. Black plays here, and white plays here. So, and white plays on the left side. So black's added all these moves to the upper right, and white has just finished off the left side. And so I can show you what happens if black plays here. This is actually something you find in Tesuji books.
Yeah.
Because white can play here.
Oh, that's the move. Okay.
Yeah, this gets rid of the cut here at the same time as getting rid of the connection underneath here.
Clever.
So it's a double purpose move.
Yeah.
But you can find this, it's a problem that you find in Tesuji books, and you're supposed to be able to find this move if you're a showdown player or something like that. In actuality, it's more difficult, but yeah, that's the kind of book you'll find this shape in. It's a famous Tesuji problem, you might say.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no way for black to attack the upper right corner, and I sort of wonder if AlphaGo Lee, because it does not compute at the same level as AlphaGo 0. Did it miss that? But like when it was playing Lee et al., it didn't make mistakes like that.
Yeah.
So it's really hard for me to understand why black would be doing such an unsuccessful attack against white.
It seems very odd indeed. Yeah. You know, I mean, it took those nice slow moves.
It's very slow. When the left side is a very important area. So just to go to the left side, this is where I would play for black.
Huh.
But again, after white has taken this key point here, it's not going to be so effective. It's going to be black will be able to chisel down white's territory to a smaller size, but it's not going to be as important as moving out with this stone here. So just to show you what I think will happen, black will play the double hane. This is a tesuji to make good shape on the side. And something like this might happen. But again, it's just, black has gained a lot of territory here and is building some territory on the left side. But at the same time, white has become very strong on the outside. And so there is a slight drawback. It's probably not going to be good enough for black to win the game. But it's better than the actual game version. Black would probably continue now with a move here. So this is better than the game. In the game, black pushes here, and white gets this point. So now the whole left side is white's territory. There's really nothing black can do about it. And at this point, I think the game is probably close on the board. And so black did not do that. Black played here. And so we're going to see some normal endgame moves. This is a nice way for black to reduce white's left side from the center and build some territory in the center area. So I agree with the way AlphaGo is continuing the game. And black is building territory in the center. And white starts to reduce it. And AlphaGo 0 is really good at handling these center territories. Like we've seen in the AlphaGo 0, AlphaGo Master series of games, we're seeing AlphaGo 0 doing really fantastic things inside the opponent's moyo. And to a certain degree, I think the 20 block, although I don't really understand the exact difference between the 20 block, I think it's the training time or something.
Mm-hmm.
But it's pretty good at reducing center territories too. So we're going to see white doing something just a little bit fancy. All of these stones scattered about are sort of going to connect up. Part of what white is doing with this marked hane here is white is setting up a cut on the third line. So like at any point, white can be reducing black territory. Well, for the time being, it's okay for black, but we're going to see that change a bit. For instance, if white gets an extension, let's just put one more mark on the board. If white gets an extension here, that's going to change.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And so white's floating about in the center. You can see these stones are sort of connected up to the left. So they're going to be okay. But black is still going to try to attack a little bit. And white is throwing away 3 stones on the right here in order to get further into the center. And then white extends down. And again, you can see white is sort of looking at this cut here next, in this case. And black answers it. Well, this is a kind of a branching point for black. It's a point where black could have attacked the center here, but this is not going to be good enough. White's just going to push through on the left and then take the profit on the upper side. and it's
Wow.
it's not big enough for black.
No,
Like the
it's
left
not.
part of that center has just disappeared. And so black answers, and white is sort of squeezing a little bit here. And this is it's not really necessary, but white's trying to get some extra profit with the open space here. So white's sort of trying to connect up to that open space. So you can see that happening. And when black plays strongly, as black did in the game, now white has created some aji from the center, some potential from the center. So white's starting to use that now. And at this point, the game is looking like a win for white. Now, white has established a connection there. And with these stones here, it's going to be hard for black to build any more territory there. They're sort of getting in the way.
I'm really beginning to recognize Zero's style, Michael. I mean, it's stones. They're sort of like Muhammad Ali. They just sort of float like a butterfly, and then, right? I mean,
they're very tenacious. They're all of those stones, like these marked stones here. They're stones that white is going to sacrifice.
Right.
But they have a lot of effect on how black can continue playing.
Yeah, they looked often kind of soft and sort of tenuous, but they're not really, are they?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, that is true of AlphaGo Zero in both the 40 block and the 20 block. It's very good at using aji to reduce the opponent's territory.
Yeah.
So after this, I don't really have very many comments. In fact, I haven't added any variations after this because I think actually it's pretty straightforward. It's actually not a huge difference. Oh, well, let's talk about it anyway, because black is trying to make a semi-eye here on the left side, but it's just not working. And we'll see black continuing to, and again, here in the center, we see white making very efficient use of those sacrifice stones, because this cut here that white just played is establishing a connection there in the center. So all of these stones have connected up.
Mm-hmm.
So that's very efficient. And we can see that AlphaGo Lee is still trying to make some trouble here, but it's just not going to work. Like black doesn't have enough liberties, and white's pretty close to having a living shape anyway.
Mm.
And so at this point, Zero is just trying stuff that is not going to work. And AlphaGo Lee is trying stuff that's not going to work. And Zero is playing along with it and just adding stones every time because white's going to win anyway. And we can see black has finally taken away white's eye space, but the race to capture is an easy win for white. And then something strange is going to happen too. Like white starts this call. But white's not going to win this call. It seems that white's not even trying to win the call. So there's this call that white starts, and it didn't seem to work out very well for light locally, but it doesn't change the fact that white's going to win the game. So we have these call threats, and that throw in there, I don't really understand. It's probably just a bad move. White eventually just allows black to win the call, even after throwing in there, which is losing some points. So it's a very strange sequence where white finally just takes here and black connects the call. So black's gained some points here, but it's still a win for white. And actually, the squeeze that white eventually gets there in the lower right area is going to be pretty big. And again, white's not playing the optimal move here. It's better for white to play the Satori first to save all of the white stones. And so white's making what I would technically call mistakes, but it doesn't make any difference to the outcome of the game. So AlphaGo doesn't care, I suppose.
No.
And
really.
Now look at this. Black plays this Atari, threatening a ko inside white's territory.
Right.
White's not going to answer that.
Are you serious?
White's not even going to try to win the ko. White's more interested in that ko on the other side of the board, maybe. But it's really strange what's happening here. At this point, black resigns.
Wow.
Like black's about to win that ko inside white's territory. This ko is really big, but it's not going to be good enough for black to win the game. Black's going to win on the board.
How big is that? Is that 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 12?
It's about 15 points.
15 points. Jeez.
Yeah, it's big.
And it's just not. It's just chump change.
It doesn't seem to care. Well, in the meantime, the upper right corner has become white's territory, so that's a point, an area that could have possibly become a seki in some of the variations, but it's going to be white's territory now. But yeah, it's really strange that it doesn't even want to fight the ko, and there's no really, it doesn't really make sense, the order of moves where black is just playing a kind of a ko threat-like move inside white's territory. This move.
Yeah,
this move here, which would not accomplish anything if white had just answered it. But white doesn't answer it. And so strange things are happening, but the game is still a win for white. So as far as AlphaGo is concerned, it probably doesn't make any difference.
It kind of feels, I think you said this at the beginning, it's a bit like those master game against the top, pro players in terms of, except it's AlphaGo against itself.
Yeah, the win for white is already established. So what I view as mistakes are moves that don't really matter to AlphaGo.
Right, the result is the same.
Doesn't make any difference. Yeah.
Wow.
So I've come to understand. Yeah.
No, it's a fascinating. It's a little. It's a little disturbing, though. I mean, it's odd to see AlphaGo playing moves, that just don't seem consistent, right?
Mm-hmm. From the human viewpoint, they're just stupid moves. But
I was trying to think of a better way to say that, but yeah.
Well, as far as AlphaGo is concerned, the winning result is what's important, so it doesn't care. Of course.
Well, we care about a great commentary, so thank you for that. Another fun one. Thank you very much, Michael. And of course, last thing before we go, another big thanks to our AGA members who make videos like this possible. And if you'd like to support this content as well, please consider joining the American Go Association at usgo.org. Thanks again. We'll see you all next week.